Hello everyone, 'tis I, the one and only Wolf. It's no secret now that Marvel has been struggling, and, well, it shows. It seems nowadays they've made either mediocre flops or crappy TV shows whilst dealing with difficult productions with a side of success, but it pales in comparison to their golden era. They really should have just taken a break after Endgame, which was a satisfying conclusion to the story, but of course they weren't going to do that, because money! So just like how DC was resting on Superman's success, so too in a way was Marvel relying on the Fantastic Four. You know, since it seems to be a tradition to attempt a Fantastic Four reboot every 10 years, so if this flops, we'll see these characters again in 2035. I remember watching the 2005 film made by Fox, and while I agree it's not the greatest film or even good at times, I will say that the casting was spot on, and the characters did act like an actual family, which fits with the theme of Fantastic Four. I only watched 40 minutes of Fant4stic. That is all I'm gonna say. So when it came to First Steps, well, at first it didn't appease to me too much. But I said, to hell with it. It's been a while since I did a movie review, and it's been a while since I saw an MCU film. I don't consider Deadpool and Wolverine as one. I think that was more of a homage to the Marvel Fox era. Now, just to clarify, I didn't see this film just to hate review this. This is just my honest opinion. So, what were my thoughts on it? Well, it isn't Fant4stic, and it's surprisingly quite good.
What?
I know, quite shocking. I thought this film was going to be a bomb, especially hearing some of the rumours, such as the difficult production, and how Sue was going to be the main focus, and the other three would be pushed to the side. But no, each of the four get their own little moments, and work off each other quite well, and most importantly, they feel like an actual family. I'm also glad it wasn't an origin story movie. The opening pretty much sums up the origins of the four, that doesn't feel like an info dump. And I think as a superhero movies go, we're all over the origin stories. They're basically common knowledge at this point. The plot isn't overtly complex or too stupidly simple. It's easy to grasp while still being engaging and tense. And for fuck's sake, the humor isn't in your face all the time like most other Marvel humor, which thank Christ for. Now, when it came to the casting, I was very skeptical. First you got Pedro Pascal, because why not? Vanessa Kirby, who I thought was a bit too old to play Sue Storm, though at the same time I'm not freaking out over that. Joseph Quinn, who I liked in Stranger Things and Warfare, I didn't see him as Johnny Storm, at least not compared to Chris Evans. And Eben Moss-Backrack isn't Michael Chiklis. That's all I'm gonna say. But surprisingly, they all did quite well. Pedro Pascal, for all his anxiety, does quite well as Reed Richards. He's a genius and sometimes outpaces everyone, and he isn't sociable. But he isn't a bumbling clown to be mocked, and his internal struggle when dealing with an impossible choice is very compelling. Vanessa Kirby is also great as Sue Storm. She's powerful and smart and acts as the maternal figure of the group, but she isn't a girl boss that pushes everyone aside. Johnny Storm was someone I was sure of being the clown, but no, he's actually quite smart. He's still no Chris Evans though.
A higher calling like getting girls and making money?
Is there any higher?
Ben Grimm was a breath of fresh air, because he isn't moping or miserable because of his rock form, though there is a hint of regret, but he isn't defined by that. Though I will say, out of all of them, he got the least screen time. But as for the villains, I do have a few problems. So the big bad, of course, is Galactus, who is basically a planet-eating god with unimaginable power. If anything, he should be on the level of Thanos or Darkseid, where he's the ultimate threat to the universe. But I feel like they neutered him a lot here, just so he can be a one-time only antagonist. And so they could say, look, it's Galactus, and he isn't a dust storm monster this time. Then there's the female Silver Surfer. A lot of people didn't like how they made Silver Surfer female, especially since Doug Jones was quite literally perfect. But I was one of those few who wasn't annoyed, since it is comic accurate, it isn't a gender swap, and well, she isn't bad looking now. But I feel like she was just there at times, as an obstacle, not as a threat. And how in the end she switches sides for a brief moment, it felt a bit forced and unearned. There's also a few other issues, like how at the beginning there was a lot of jumps between times which felt a bit all over the place. Sue, a heavily pregnant woman going on a mission to space to negotiate with Galactus. Seriously, think about that. Did you think you had enough time before you were due? What if you went into labor early? Or if the ship crashes? Or the jumping through space causes internal issues? I understand that as the four, each of you is vital, and time is of the essence, but come on! Also, how the fuck did Johnny learn an alien language from hearing a few broadcasted messages from space? Seriously, is Duolingo super advanced now? Is Johnny Duolingo? But overall, it's not a bad movie. It's definitely not a fantastic movie now. And don't be saying shit such as, oh, the MCU is so back. It's not back. It hasn't been back since Tony snapped his fingers. But I am curious, since these guys are going to return for Avengers Doomsday, which already has a lot riding on it now. The post-credit scene may have given me a bit of nerdgasm. Though I won't lie, I am hoping that after Doomsday we can finally give superhero movies a rest, because they've gone on for too long, and they've basically become the fast food equivalent of films. But regardless, this was a fairly decent, inoffensive superhero movie, with great acting and fun, likable characters. And it's something Marvel definitely needed, especially after the fucking disasters they've had this year already. Anyway, that's enough of me now. See y'all!